70,000 of our bridges stand deficient. 50% of our roads are not up to standard. And we are voting on birth control? Come on. What's next? Egypt? They have a whole list of things that have nothing to do with the highway bill. Bring it on. Let the people see who's stopping progress.
Senator Barbara Boxer on the Senate floor earlier today discussing the Blunt Amendment attached to a larger transportation bill. The measure would allow your boss to have a say in your health care. The Senate is scheduled to vote on it tomorrow. The sponsor, Senator Roy Blunt, says it's all about religious freedom.
It's not about a specific procedure. It's about a faith principle that the First Amendment guarantees.
A few moderate Republicans remaining in the Senate, they're not buying it. Senator Olympia Snowe, who will retire at the end of this year, will not vote for it.
With respect to the Blunt Amendment, I think it's much broader than I could support.
Really? How broad? An employer or an insurance company would be able to deny any essential or preventative care, from contraception to cancer screenings, for any reason. If your boss thinks treatment can be achieved through prayer, or he or she would be able to deny you the coverage because of that, based on their moral standing. Rick Santorum thinks it's a fine idea and supports the Blunt Amendment. Mitt Romney was asked where he stands on it earlier today.
Rubio is being debated, I believe, later this week, that deals with banning or allowing employers to ban providing female contraception. Have you taken a position on that? He's said he was for that, and we'll talk about personhood in a second, but he's for that. Have you taken a position on that?
I'm not for the bill, but look, the idea of presidential candidates getting into questions about contraception within a relationship between a man and a woman, a husband and wife, I'm not going there.
He said he's not for the bill. Minutes later, Romney changed his mind. His campaign issuing this correction, this statement regarding the Blunt bill. The way the question was asked was confusing. Governor Romney supports the Blunt bill because he believes in a conscious exemption in health care for religious institutions and people of faith. Joining me now is Ariana Presley, Boston City Council member and chair of the Committee on Women and Healthy Communities. Mitt Romney was against the Blunt Amendment before he was for it. I have to ask you, Ms. Presley, how does he explain that one going forward? What do you think?
I really don't know, and it certainly isn't surprising. You know, here in Boston we have a saying, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes, and that's what I'm doing when it comes to Mitt Romney's positions. Now,
this is a big story in your state. Scott Brown, the senator, supports the Blunt Amendment. He faces a tough re-election bid against Elizabeth Warren. How is his support being received in Massachusetts on this? How big a deal is it?
Well, I know that it's completely out of step with the American people, and certainly the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it is a losing strategy. I don't believe, given how draconian and how far-sweeping this is, how extreme this legislation is, again, an employer would have carte blanche and the full authority at their own whim, based upon moral conviction, to deny access to treatment or services. And I don't believe that the women and families of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts want someone to have the authority to deny them vaccinations for their children, to deny an expectant mother access to prenatal care or genetic testing, to deny a family with a child struggling with mental health issues access to those services and those treatments.
So it's not about religious freedom at all, in your opinion?
Absolutely not. Let me just be clear. I consider myself to be a person of very deep faith. I am a Christian. I am the granddaughter of a Baptist preacher. I'm in church every Sunday. And one of the tenets that I cling to in my faith is that I am my brother's keeper. And it infuriates me that Scott Brown and Republicans like him are not their sister's keeper. I believe in accessibility to health care because I am a Christian. The two are not mutually exclusive.
Ayanna Presley, you've said it all. Thank you for joining us tonight. Now let's turn to Dr. Amy Bryant, an obstetrician and also gynecologist and a fellow with Physicians for Reproductive Choice and Health. Doctor, good to have you with us tonight. What kind of impact would the Blunt Amendment have on women's health care from your standpoint?
Well, I think the real issue is that women need to have access to affordable birth control. Birth control is absolutely an essential part of women's well-being and health, and it's their right to be able to decide how many children they would like to have and when they should have those children. And I think that allowing someone's access to birth control to be based on the religious affiliation of their employer or the whim of their employer, as the Blunt Amendment would really broaden the exemptions with its the arrangement that it proposes.
Sure.
I think that it would really have a sweeping effect on women's health care if women could not have access to affordable contraception.
Mandatory ultrasound bills are being debated in several states. These ultrasounds are not medically necessary. What kind of position does that put doctors in?
I think it really puts doctors in a very difficult position of having to take care of having to do a government-mandated procedure on a woman when it's really not medically necessary. We have patients that we see who come into us who already have an ultrasound already done, and so to have to put them through another ultrasound when it's not medically necessary at all can be very troubling, it can be costly, and it can be invasive if it needs to be a transvaginal ultrasound. And so I really see no reason why this kind of intrusion by the government onto the doctor and patient relationship is being put forth.
And this is exactly what the Republicans have been whining about all through the health care debate, that the government doesn't get between you and your doctor, but they're right there for it right now. Dr. Amy Bryant, thank you for joining us tonight.